Hi, I'll start the show with a song. Knew you. That's a song that's being offered for beings that want to become more aware, a connection to real guidance and a real education. The new presentation is available, and you can find out information about it on www.wonderfulworldwideeducators.com. There's a bunch of different projects that are in development that you can become involved with. And have a real purpose in your life and find out or remind you or wake you up to why you came here into this stuff that's called a place in the psych realms, this material place, the lowest place there is in life. I guess you'd call it these psych realms, the physical. That's solid stuff, the slowest vibrations. And then there's the astral, and that's like your emotions, emotional stuff, feelings, and what we call love here on earth, and fear, and those kind of things. Not the real love, like in the real universes, where there's real freedom and real love, not this implied freedom we have on earth and the emotional love. Then there's the causal place, world, body, realm, whatever you want to call it, I guess. That's our memories, some of our past lives and things that we've experienced. Then there's the mental, which is the mind, stuff we think and create. Then there's the etheric, which is our subconscious, where we have our intuition. And then there's a deep, dark border. It's like a shell around these psych realms, places, bodies that we need the universal guides, the real guidance, and the education that's provided to find how we can earn our way out of these psych realms. And when I guess we've been tempered enough by all the experiences that we've gone through, the universal guides will escort us into the real universes through this deep, dark border, this shell. So, and there's the real universes where there's real love, not just this emotional stuff we have on earth, and real freedom, not the implied freedom we have here on earth. So I'll read a little bit of the Adventurist series, a book, A Journey to Real Freedom by Dwayne the Great Writer, to give you an idea of some of the books that are available at lulu.com and on the PDFs through the Wonderful Worldwide Educators or the new presentation. or Kelsey Lynn Brown, or Henry Draper, or Eric Oak. So if you're trying to get a hold of some of the books, you'll be able to. I'll just open it up and see what it says here in this new book, too. Really, she said, sounding a little surprised. Yes, it was an old man from the office. He was looking at me through the window. She held me securely and said, "It's probably your imagination running away with you, sweetie." Huh, I don't think so, lady. Besides, it didn't matter what she thought. I know what I saw. I was holding on and wanted to be held. After a few moments, I started to relax. Then I said, "Really? Do you really think so?" She let go and looked down at me and said, "All of us imagine funny things at times, and so do I. But most of the time, it is just silly stuff. Besides, why would the old guy want to see you anyhow? He can barely walk from one room to the next, let alone walk out into the dark around the building just to peek in the window." What she said made a lot of sense, but I know what I saw. I wanted everything to be all right, and I felt so much better after she told me all of that. Of course, I didn't believe her for 1 minute, but I wanted to, so I relaxed. Here was Mom telling me one thing, and what you had experienced was another. What's a boy to do? "Come on," she said. "Let's go look in the bathroom, and I will show you there is nothing to be afraid of." I reluctantly walked into the bathroom with her. She led the way, and I slowly followed her. "Let's look out the window together," she said as she motioned to it. As I looked out the window, I could see there was nothing there but darkness. Then she looked at me, smiled, and then we walked back into the other room and sat on our beds. As I looked up from my bed, I stared at the ceiling for the longest time. Now there were a lot more things going through my little mind, a lot of funny things. It didn't take long for Mom to fall asleep again and begin to snore. I, on the other hand, sat there wide awake and wondering when the old man was going to come crashing through the front door with the shovel that I had tripped over in the dark. I became petrified as my mind clung onto all sorts of strange ideas about what could happen. What Mom had said to me made me feel better for about 1 minute, and then back I went, immediately into shock again. She woke up for a brief moment from her snoring and told me to turn off the light, so I got up and did so. Now, because it was so dark in the room, I decided to pull back the curtains in order to let the moonlight in. It did help a little bit. I had to feel my way back to the bed until I could see. I sat on the bed wide awake, looking into the darkness all around me and listening for every little sound. There was a slight noise from somewhere outside, and I was trying to figure out what it was. It sounded like the wind in a way, but I didn't feel any wind when I was outside. So I wondered about what it could be. This whole place was really spooky for a kid my age. There was no more adventure. There was just being frightened. I wanted to leave, but I knew that Mom wanted to sleep, so I didn't say anything. As my mind finally began to calm down a little, I just listened to the silence. As the sound I heard finally stopped, everything was so very still. I was now finally enjoying the peaceful calm of the night. Staring into the darkness actually helped me to subdue my jitters, as I would glance over to the window and see the pale moonlight softly gleam into the room. After a while, I was feeling very calm and relaxed. I let myself feel the softness of the bed and fall into it. I began slowly to fall asleep. I could feel myself getting ready to go into my dream world and beginning to drift away. But then I suddenly heard something outside the door on the old wood porch. I immediately sat up and started to sweat. I could hear the sound of someone slowly walking along the wooden walkway outside. They were taking a step at a time, so softly and slowly. I looked over to the front window with its curtains pulled apart and could easily see the pale light from the moon shining through, and there was also a swift shadow that ran past for a brief moment. Now I was really stiff with fear. The view was rather eerie with what seemed to be shadows all around. As I was looking out the window, I think my eyes were playing tricks on me as I began to see faint images of some sort. This was the perfect setting for something to go wrong and get really strange and weird. I quickly got under the covers and pulled them over my head. At the same time, I couldn't resist peeking out since I wanted to see if something was going to happen. I figured if something did happen, I could run away if I had to. But then I realized there was nowhere to run. I watched the moonlight softly shining through the window under the overhang on the porch and watched for more shadows. The wooden porch ran along the entire front of the building, offering a perfect runway for the old man and his shovel. As I kept watching the window, expecting a shadowy figure to appear any moment, I felt so nervous and stiff. My knees were actually knocking together and my teeth were chattering as though I was freezing. The sound of the steps continued moving along the walkway. My listening was fixated on the sounds that I heard, and at the same time I kept watching the window to see if anyone would appear, hoping all the while they would not. My little heart was beating extremely fast as I continued to hear what I knew to be footsteps. I kept imagining the old man with his invisible friend coming along the walkway, wanting to get Mom and me. My idea was that he ate people who stayed here, because when we checked in, I didn't see anyone else or any other cars outside. It only made sense that he had already eaten all the other people that stayed here. After all of this thinking, I was really becoming concerned. I wanted to wake up Mom and get the heck out of this place, but I knew that I shouldn't. Then it happened. A shadow suddenly appeared at the window and then slowly moved into plain sight. It was the faint figure of a person with something in their hand that looked like a stick or even a shovel being held up. I was in total shock again, and I could feel my little body becoming even stiffer. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't talk because I was just too frightened, too frozen to even move. I could see the figure slowly walk past the window and towards the door. I watched in total stiffness as the figure disappeared from the window, and I knew that it was headed for the door. My little heart was going so fast that I thought my life was going to end any minute. Then it happened. The doorknob began to churn. I was starting to really sweat now, tense and stiff as a board, and already screaming in my mind. I knew the door was locked, but I was still scared out of my wits. I could hear it churn several times, but whoever was out there could not get in. At least that's what I hoped. Now that I was in a total panic, a red alert within myself prompted me to sit up and scream. Ah! 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 I yelled as loud as I could, and as I did, I could hear whoever it was running away along the walkway. I kept yelling all kinds of words that made no sense. I was in a panic. I had no idea what I was saying. I just blurted out anything to make noise as Mom sat up immediately. "What are you yelling about?" she asked with a concern in her voice. I was trying to speak and make sense, but I was all out of sorts from fear. My jaw felt frozen as I tried to speak, and my mouth was like rubber. It was as if I had no tongue. I finally got the right words out. Mom, there was someone at the door. There really was. They were turning the doorknob and trying to get in. I said in a panicky voice, Sweetie, you just had a bad dream. It's okay. Go back to sleep, she said, rather tired sounding. Yes, lady, I had a bad dream, all right. An absolute, total living hell. Again, I was trying to go along with what she was telling me, but I couldn't. Besides, I wasn't asleep, so how could I have had a bad dream? She was in La La Land, and I was in Nutsoville. Totally scared out of my jammies and then some.